Hello, good evening and welcome to Biz First Review 360, your weekly dose of the top business and economic stories in the country. Let's get started with our top story this week. The government is gearing up for damage control after insurers classified the Magam Ruhunupura harbour in Hambantota as a risk plus port. Let's have a look at the story.
Minister of Ports and Shipping Arjuna Ranatunga told reporters Wednesday that some shipping lines have named the Hambantota port as a risk plus port following the seizure of a Japanese K-line vessel by protesting dock workers. Ranatunga, who stopped short of naming the shipping line, said the government has been in talks with them to continue roll-on, roll-off operations at the Hambantota port as planned.
They have named Hambantota as a risk plus port last evening. So we have already spoken to a couple of shipping lines, and we are ready to take over and go ahead and do the business again. There are about 2-3 indicated, but we have already spoken to them and try to sort out the issues. I think most probably by next week we can tell you whether some are going to pull out. But Port Authority has already started discussing with them and the agents as well now. We are trying to show that this is more like a union issue happen in the port rather than piracy or something relevant to that. But so far the discussions have been very cooperative and successful with some of the shipping lines. That's why I said by next week I can tell you whether I can name some of the shipping lines who are going to go away from Hambantota. If we can convince them to come back, I'm sure that we might. If we fail, we will let you know what other shipping lines will leave Hambantota.
Biz First Review 360 wrote to the local agent of K-Line for a comment, but the agency declined on the grounds that they have been advised by the shipping line not to comment on the matter. Commenting on the ongoing strike by temporary port workers, Minister Ranatunga said those who fail to report to work by 2 p.m. on Thursday will be considered as those who have abandoned their posts. Temporary workers at Hambantota port have been striking since last week, demanding the Sri Lanka Ports Authority to take them on as permanent employees.
We are going to form a company with this Chinese party and the Sri Lankan government, that is SLPA, is coming inside. So we have a right to safeguard our workers. So we have given them a guarantee saying that no workers are going to lose their jobs. We have given that guarantee. That was the number one clause I discussed as a minister. And the Chinese company has given us they have agreed on this. Earlier, they were not very comfortable to take 480 people. They were talking about 250, but we really insist them that they have to take over the entire staff, and they agreed on that. And we went and told them. It is so unfortunate. The issue now I face, when a private company comes in, whether they are willing to take over these people who are going to do protests. So that is the problem I am going to face now. So let us face these issues in the future.
Minister Ranatunga said the Ports Authority is yet to assess the damage caused to property, and he is still pushing to win more favourable terms for the sale of the Hambantota port to China. The government is aiming to finalise the deal by 7th January 2017.
These are the final discussions we are going through. There are areas where we can earn more money, which has been requested by the Chinese company, which we didn't agree. And some of the requests made by them, we are still fighting, we are still negotiating. Not only that, some of the areas we won't agree. So even we might have to sign sometimes SLPA might not be able to sign an agreement if we don't agree with the current status. No, even that I personally don't agree with 99. But generally they came with 199, right? ඔගොල්ලෝ මමත කරන්න එපා 199කට ආවේ දැන් 99කට අඩු වෙලා තියෙනවා. My target is to try and bring it down to about 50, but I don't know whether I'll be very successful. But overall, I should say that from 199 to come down to 99 is a big achievement. It is up to the SLPA, it is up to the Sri Lanka government to try and get the best possible deal for the country. That is something I'm working on.
Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has called on the central bank to reduce its reliance on borrowed reserves through a gradual but steady wind down of forex swaps with domestic commercial banks.
The International Monetary Fund has asked the central bank to slash a portfolio of about $2 billion of swaps and instead buy dollars outright.
These swaps generally are very short term, so it's to sort of shore up reserves because you get these dollars when you're in need of dollars. So either you get it from domestic banks or you get it from what we've done in the past with India, as well as the swap with the SARC. So they're very short term, so it's only 6 months, 12 months, so it's very temporary. So with an IMF program, is generally they look at it in terms of the long term. So it's not just a 1 year, 2 year program. They want it to last. They want something to be built for a long term. So they want the central bank to move away from these short term quick fixes, I think, and move to a long term way of building up the reserves. But I think, to be fair, in terms of the central bank, there is nothing much else that can go beyond these swaps or going for dollar bonds because you're not really seeing FDI and export earnings sort of compensating for it.
A swap is an obligation which the central bank has to honor when it matures. By end December 2015, the central bank had $2,135 million of swaps outstanding.
There is a risk when it sort of comes up for expiration or you try to roll it over. So at that point, it really depends where interest rates are, where the dollar is, things like that, and whether the counterparty wants to actually renew it. But if it's like a favorable time where Sri Lanka can go and get more dollars from the market by dollar bonds or things like that, then it's not much of a problem. But if it's in a crunch situation where there is outflows from Sri Lanka, you don't really see exports growing, imports are slightly up, and there's a dollar shortage, in that period it's not ideal.
Trade relations between Tajikistan and Sri Lanka received a boost this week with the arrival of the Tajik President Emomali Rahman on a state visit. Now, during bilateral talks with President Maithripala Sirisena, the leaders of both countries agreed to optimize new trade and investment opportunities in each other's countries.
Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Harsha De Silva told a business forum in Colombo that Tajikistan will open up investment opportunities for Sri Lankan firms in hydropower and apparel sectors.
Sri Lanka investors can also explore the areas of hydropower generation, as we discussed yesterday, and apparel sectors. They could also explore investment opportunities in the free trade zones of Tajikistan. In this context, a visit to Tajikistan by a trade delegation has also been proposed next year in order to expand our existing trade relations.
Sri Lanka is also planning on a trade mission to Tajikistan to further strengthen bilateral trade ties.
Such engagements will transform Sri Lanka into a hub in the Indian Ocean, just as Tajikistan is already the gateway to the CIS region. Therefore, it is in the interest of both countries to leverage each other as launching pads to access the markets in their respective regions.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
Echelon Square in Colombo has become a crowd puller, with Yes 101 and Legends Christmas celebrations taking center stage. The lighting of the Christmas tree added color to the season's festivities, and the music set the tone for Christmas cheer.
We are very happy at YesFM to have the official opening of the Christmas tree, lighting of the Christmas tree at the square. And we would like all our listeners to come in here, join us in this celebration. And this year, Christmas is not going to be the same. In fact, it's going to be better. And it's going to be the best Christmas so far. We would have had it at the location here.
Absolute iconic place. I'm sure everybody must come and see this. So HSBC is delighted to partner with the SFM and MBC Network in bringing this special Christmas experience at the square.
Partnered by HSBC, celebrations at the square will continue until the 1st of January with a host of activities for guests and listeners. Come visit Yes 101 and Legends at Echelon Square and be a part of this year's Christmas celebrations.
Coming up right after this short commercial break, a chat with the chairman of the Board of Investment. Welcome back to BizFirst Review 360. Will 2017 see an influx of new investors? What will happen with the introduction of a new agency to deal with investors? Let's have a listen to the head of the country's investment office.
I'm with the chairman of the Board of Investment, Mr. Upul Jayasuriya, attorney at law. Sir, thank you very much for speaking to BizFirst Review 360. As always, it's a pleasure to have you on our programs. Can I start by asking you this question? What is the BOI's plan right now? 2015 was not a great year for FDI. We've seen an increase in 2016. Especially in the second quarter, there's been a spike of several $100 million. There are several projects in the pipeline, several projects that will be rolled out in January 2017. What's the BOI's plan right now to attract and promote foreign direct investment?
In attracting FDIs into Sri Lanka, we had to look at where the shortcomings were in the previous administration. And we found that previously much expected results that we could have achieved with the dawn of peace were not achieved. So we had to find the reasons. The rule of law situation, the democracy, and the independence of judiciary were key figures. In fact, in the ease of doing business, the World Bank Index, there are about 3 to 4 items on the judiciary and the administration of justice. So it is the cumulative effect of all that where we are labelled at whatever the level in comparison with other countries in the world. We are now labelled at 111. But as you know, a lot of changes have taken place in these areas with regard to the appointing process of judges and so on. That has been put right. I mean, it's a welcome sign. And also the independence of the judges in making orders. So that's a welcome situation. In the meantime, our constitution in 1978 had a provision for the safety of the protection of the investments. Now that again was blatantly violated with the underperforming act that was brought in.
The expropriation.
The expropriation bill. With that, nearly 35 companies were taken over, mostly for political vengeance, but some should have been taken over, but that was not the thing that should have been done, not the way that it was done. Wrong in principle. So, the constitutional provision, which was brought in by Honorable Jaja in 1978 with his wisdom, that investors should be given protection. So that protection was violated. Then secondly, there was another huge problem that was created with the land lease that was imposed for the foreigners. From 1% that it was brought up to 15%. So foreigners were appalled by these arbitrary changes of law.
Let's talk about Hambantota. The Prime Minister has spoken about how just before the election he spoke about how he's going to implement 100 projects for Hambantota, including a car factory, a vehicle factory, etc., etc. And now we're seeing some of those plans are being put into action. We're being told that come January 2017, several projects will be implemented. What role is the BOI playing in all of this?
Well, I think the Minister of Strategic Development signed the Gazette acquiring a large extent of land in the Hambantota, the southern province, which extends to the Ua province as well. This acreage is for not 100 projects as the Prime Minister envisaged at the very beginning. It's going to be much more than that. It's a gigantic project. So we have to hope high, and then at least even if we fall short, we'll be much higher than what we expected. So it will be much more than that. I don't want to be even talking too high of these figures also, because these are figures at the moment, but action is being taken. And the mapping has been done, surveying has been done, so that is how we are now able to issue the Gazette.
But why the focus on Hambantota specifically?
No, one of the reasons about Hambantota, southern province, and also Ua, these are areas which are backward and also high amount of poverty and unemployment. So
some
they have to be
districts in the country.
Some of the poorest districts in the country. So we have to have emphasis for those districts and the people in those areas. So they have to be given the opportunity.
Finally, Mr. Jayasuriya, for a lot of activists, a lot of civil activists are having some problems with the proposed Sustainable Development Bill and the inclusion of this development agency that is being spoken about very vaguely. We still have no clear information on what this would be, but there's also talk that it's going to be another one-stop shop. Now, the BOI is the one-stop shop for foreign investors coming into Sri Lanka. What will happen to the BOI when this development agency comes in?
Well, from what has been discussed so far, which is in draft form, the BOI will remain. There is no question about that. The facilitation process of the BOI will also remain. The monitoring, the project implementation, the BOI will be doing what we have been doing and something more than what we have been doing. The idea of the development agency, we have been made to understand, is that to facilitate what we are doing with more to be done with more efficiency and more meaningfully, providing opportunities for larger investments to be attracted by the country. So that complements. Now it's in draft bill form, and it's gazetted, so people can access it.
How far away is Sri Lanka from reaching that magical target of 35% FDI, 35% of GDP in foreign direct investments? How far away are we from that?
It's like this. It was a dream unrealized for many years. Even after the dawn of the peace, it should have been much different to what we have gone through. So we have to hope high and then go for the target. It's okay if we fall short of it with a few fathoms away, but it's for the better good of everyone, the country at large, that we have to all get together, particularly all the agencies, the line agencies, the ministries, have to have one clear message. We have to facilitate these investments. Because this alone cannot be done by the BOI alone. We need the support of all the other agencies like the UDA, the local authorities, GSMB, Geological and Mines Bureau, Survey and Mines Bureau, then Water Board, the Electricity Board, now the megapolis, who is also undertaking a gigantic project. So we need the support of all that. We have to work as a team. It's not a question of BOI attracting the FDIs. It's a team that attracts FDIs on the policies of the country and the government. We are here to, when the policies are finalized, which are now in the making, to promote that and then entice the investors to come into the country. So now, at the moment, we are in the process of finalizing these incentives and the other tax benefits and so on, which will be out by about March, we are told.
Mr. Jayasuriya, thank you very much for talking to BizFirst Review 360.
Thank you very much.
I wish you all the best to you and the BOI for 2007.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
On the other side of this break, the threats to the tea industry. Welcome back to the program. On last week's show, we took a look at how political intervention has impacted the tea industry. Tonight, we look at one of the most vulnerable groups in the country, the tea pluckers themselves.
It may look as though there's plenty of tea leaves for the tea workers to pick, but it's only these new leaves which are good enough quality to count at auction. Each day, it is expected that the tea workers pluck at least 18 kilos of tea, which is equivalent to roughly the size of this basket. Which is heavier than you think.
According to a union boss, workers face increasing challenges in plucking tea because of weeds, leeches and bees. Here one woman shows us scars from leeches. Ceylon tea is renowned for its superior quality, but with the majority of it shipped abroad, few Sri Lankans can actually afford to drink it. The question is, how many of those people enjoying their cup of Ceylon tea in countries abroad actually stop to think about the plight of Sri Lankan tea workers? Indra Devi lives on the state-run St. Coombs plantation with her husband, mother and 3 young children. Despite a government policy to give estate workers their own plot of land, the stark reality is many still live in homes that barely provide shelter.
நாங்களும் கேட்டு எங்களுக்கும் வேணான்னு போயிடுச்சு. அதனால இடம் எதுவுமே இல்லாதனால, ஒரு வீடு கட்டுற வசதி எதுவுமே இல்லாதனால நாங்கள் வந்து இப்படி இருக்கிறோம். மழையிலையும் வெயிலையும் இருக்கிற நேரம் ரொம்ப கஷ்டமாக இருக்கும். தண்ணி வரும், ஒழுகும், பிள்ளைகள்லாம் வச்சுருக்க சரியான கஷ்டப்படுவோம். ரொம்ப கஷ்டத்தில் தான் இருக்கிறோம்.
The tea industry is facing a labour crisis. Although some aspects of tea pluckers' lives may have improved, there are still considerable concerns about the social problems they face.
I visited a state plantation community, and it was saddening to witness their stagnation in cycles of poverty and extremely harsh living conditions, with little access to services including sanitation, health and education. Alcoholism, child labour, violence and sexual abuse are reportedly common, and a significant proportion of the school-age children drop out or do not go to school.
The isolation of many estates from nearby towns cannot be underestimated. With improved education over the last few years, many workers are looking to a better future for their children, away from the estates.
இல்லை அப்படி நினைக்கவே இல்லை. பிள்ளைகள்லாம் நல்லா படித்து நாங்கள் தான் அப்படி வேலை செய்கிறோன்னு இருக்கக்கூடாது. எங்கள் பிள்ளைகள் நல்ல ஒரு ஜாப்பில் தேடி நல்ல ஒரு இதாக வாழ்க்கையை இது பண்ணணும்.
As a result, many plantation owners now face an urgent shortfall of workers and a growing number of retired workers living on the estate. Undeniably, the living conditions vary hugely. While this is sometimes because family members send money from outside the state, it also seems some plantation companies take better care of their workforce. But is there another reason why some tea workers live better than others?
Consumption of liquor is very high in the plantation area. A man who consumes more liquor will not do anything. That family will suffer. One family will be okay, the next family will be suffering.
When the output is affected, it affects their earning and their quality of life. High alcoholism leads to household domestic violence. And most of the time, the victims of such domestic abuse is the women.
அப்ப இந்த மதுனால நிறைய வீட்டுகளுக்கு பிரச்சனை தான். பிள்ளைங்களை படிக்க விட மாட்டாங்க. அப்பா அம்மாருக்கு தான் விசேஷமா குடிச்சிட்டு வந்தா அந்த பிள்ளைகளை படிக்க விடாம சத்தங்கத்தம் போடுவாங்க. அப்ப அப்படியெல்லாம் பிரச்சனைகள். அப்ப இந்த பாலியல் துஷ்பிரயோகமா அந்த மாதிரி விஷயங்கள் எல்லாம் அந்த மது பாவனையில நடக்குது அப்படிங்கிறது அவங்களுக்கு ஒரு தெளிவான விளக்கம் போய் சேர்ந்துச்சுன்னு சொன்னா அவங்க அதை கைவிடுவாங்க அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு நம்பிக்கை இருக்கு.
பிள்ளைங்களுக்கு பிரச்சனை, அதுங்களுக்கு சாப்பாடு ஒழுங்கா கொடுக்கறதுக்கு இல்ல, உடுப்பு கஷ்டம், அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு இது இந்த மதுபானம் எல்லாம் இருக்கு. அது படிப்பு பிரச்சனை ரொம்பவே இருக்குது.
But why are so many estate workers driven to drink? The Planters Association say there are already some programs to tackle alcohol abuse on estates. But can more be done? Studies have shown that a happy workforce is more productive. If the tea industry is to have a future, the health and well-being of workers must be taken seriously, because without them, there is no tea and no industry. In the final film in the series, we look at what hope there is for an industry many believe to be in decline.
On our segment Speak Your Mind tonight, we take a look at highlights from the Tajikistan-Sri Lanka business meeting.
As an emerging economy, the challenge for Sri Lanka today is to achieve sustainable, high economic growth with greater equity whilst integrating with the rest of the world. I am pleased to inform you that we had fruitful and productive bilateral discussions with the Tajikistan delegation yesterday on economic and trade cooperation. We discussed cooperation in areas such as trade and investment, tourism, cultural tourism, and youth exchanges, which could be realized through joint ventures including public-private partnerships in mutually beneficial sectors and improve ties through joint ventures. In order to expand the bilateral trade between our two countries, it is important to consider organizing a study mission to Tajikistan parallel to a main international trade event in the region to explore trade opportunities between the two countries. We should also explore the possibilities of organizing trade missions to Tajikistan from Sri Lanka for key potential products such as apparel, rubber-based products, gem and jewelry, porcelain, tableware, Ayurvedic medicine and confectionery products, among others. Therefore, I believe that this business meeting today can serve as a precursor to organizing a full-fledged business forum in Sri Lanka, including B2B meetings with a high-level Tajikistan trade mission, including importers, investors, potential exporters, and trade associations. I also wish to state that I am very much encouraged by the Memorandum of Understanding to be signed today between the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Tajikistan. I believe such partnerships between the private sectors will no doubt propel our bilateral economic relations to new heights.
And that's our show for tonight. Don't forget to look us up on Facebook. You'll find us at BizFirst Review 360. I'm Nadim Majid. I'll see you again, same time, same place next week. Good night and good luck.